Imagine that somewhere beneath the sands of Egypt, or deep beneath the ruins of an ancient temple, lies the tomb of the most famous woman of the ancient world. Hidden for more than 2,000 years, it may still remain untouched. If archaeologists were to discover it one day, the find could become the greatest archaeological sensation since the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb. But why does Cleopatra's burial place remain one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries? And did the last queen of Egypt truly take her greatest secret to the grave? Almost everyone has heard the name Cleopatra. For centuries, her story has inspired writers, artists, and filmmakers. Yet surprisingly, most people know her only as the beautiful queen who captivated Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. In reality, her life was far more complex, and Cleopatra herself was one of the most intelligent, educated, and capable rulers of the ancient world. She was born around 69 BC into the Ptolemaic dynasty, descendants of one of Alexander the Great's generals. Although the Ptolemies ruled Egypt for nearly 3 centuries, they were of Greek origin. Greek was the language spoken at court, and many rulers never even learned the language of the Egyptian people they governed. Cleopatra was different. According to ancient historians, she spoke several languages fluently and became one of the first rulers of her dynasty to master the Egyptian language. This allowed her to build a stronger connection with her people and strengthen her authority as queen. Her path to the throne, however, was anything but easy. After the death of her father, Ptolemy XII, Egypt was plunged into a struggle for power. Following the customs of the dynasty, Cleopatra was expected to rule alongside her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, who also became her husband. Marriages between siblings were common among the Ptolemies, who believed they were preserving the purity of the royal bloodline. But peace between them did not last. A bitter conflict for the throne soon erupted, forcing Cleopatra to flee Alexandria. Yet she had no intention of giving up her kingdom. At that very moment, one of the most famous men in Roman history entered Egypt, Julius Caesar. According to the famous ancient story, Cleopatra secretly entered Caesar's palace wrapped inside a rolled carpet or a large sack of linen. Historians still debate whether this dramatic tale is entirely true, but it has become one of the most legendary moments of the ancient world. That meeting changed history. Caesar supported Cleopatra, and after a brief civil war, she regained control of Egypt. Later, they had a son, Ptolemy XV, better known as Caesarion. After Julius Caesar was assassinated in Rome, Egypt once again found itself in a dangerous political situation. A new Roman leader rose to power, Mark Antony. The most famous chapter of Cleopatra's life began with him. Their relationship was both political and deeply personal. Together, they dreamed of preserving Egypt's independence while building a powerful Eastern empire. But standing against them was Octavian, the future Emperor Augustus. Their fate was decided in 31 BC at the Battle of Actium. The combined fleet of Cleopatra and Mark Antony suffered a devastating defeat. From that moment, the future of Egypt was all but sealed. When Octavian's army entered Alexandria, Mark Antony mistakenly believed that Cleopatra had already died. Overwhelmed by despair, he took his own life. Ancient writers describe how the mortally wounded Antony was carried to Cleopatra, where he died in her arms. Soon afterward, Cleopatra herself faced an impossible choice. She understood exactly what awaited her if she were captured alive. Roman victors traditionally paraded defeated rulers through the streets of Rome during their triumphal celebrations. For the Queen of Egypt, Such humiliation would have been worse than death. She refused to allow it. And it is here that one of history's greatest mysteries truly begins. How did Cleopatra die? For more than 2,000 years, the most famous story has been the legend of the deadly cobra. According to ancient accounts, a basket of figs was secretly delivered to Cleopatra's chamber. Hidden inside was an Egyptian cobra. The queen allowed the snake to bite her and died alongside her two loyal attendants. Modern historians, however, approach this story with caution. The Egyptian cobra is a large and extremely dangerous snake. Smuggling one unnoticed into a heavily guarded palace would have been extraordinarily difficult. Furthermore, its venom does not always produce the peaceful and immediate death often portrayed in films. Because of this, some researchers believe Cleopatra may instead have taken a carefully prepared mixture of powerful poisons that would have guaranteed a quicker and more reliable death. Whatever the truth may be, most historians agree on one point. Cleopatra most likely chose death rather than becoming a prisoner of Rome. With her death, Egypt officially became a Roman province, bringing the long age of the pharaohs to an end forever. Yet with Cleopatra's death, another mystery was born, one that has fascinated the world for more than 20 centuries. Where is her tomb? Ancient Roman historians wrote that despite his victory, Octavian ordered Cleopatra to be buried beside Mark Antony. If these accounts are accurate, then somewhere in Egypt lies the final resting place of two of the most famous figures of the ancient world. And yet, not a single ancient source reveals the exact location of their burial. That is why the search continues to this very day. But the mystery did not end with Cleopatra's death. In many ways, it was only beginning. For more than 2,000 years, explorers, archaeologists, and historians have searched for the Queen's final resting place. Yet despite countless excavations, advanced technology, and decades of research, no one has been able to answer one simple question. Where is Cleopatra buried? One of the most promising theories points to an ancient site west of Alexandria known as Taposiris Magna. Built during the Ptolemaic period, the temple was dedicated to Osiris, the Egyptian god of the afterlife, and his wife Isis. Cleopatra strongly associated herself with Isis throughout her reign, while Mark Antony was often linked to Osiris. Because of this symbolism, many researchers believe the queen may have deliberately chosen this sacred place for her burial. Over the past 2 decades, archaeologists have uncovered remarkable discoveries at Taposiris Magna. Hidden tunnels have been found beneath the temple. Underground chambers, ancient coins bearing Cleopatra's image, ceremonial objects, and beautifully preserved statues have all emerged from the earth. Each discovery has fueled new hope. Could the Queen's tomb finally be close? Despite the excitement, the answer remains uncertain. No burial chamber belonging to Cleopatra or Mark Antony has yet been identified. Some experts believe the tomb may still lie beneath unexplored sections of the temple complex. Others suggest that earthquakes, rising sea levels, and centuries of destruction may have buried it beneath layers of rock and debris, making it almost impossible to reach with today's technology. There is another possibility. Ancient Alexandria was repeatedly struck by devastating earthquakes and tsunamis. Entire districts of the royal city collapsed into the Mediterranean Sea. Modern underwater archaeology has revealed streets, palaces, temples, and enormous stone monuments resting on the seabed just offshore. What if Cleopatra's mausoleum was built within the royal quarter of Alexandria? If so, It may now lie beneath the waters of the Mediterranean, hidden among the ruins of the city she once ruled. Underwater expeditions have already uncovered spectacular remains of ancient Alexandria. Divers have recovered colossal statues, granite columns, sphinxes, and architectural fragments that once decorated the royal capital. Yet no trace of Cleopatra's tomb has ever been found. Some historians believe the queen's burial place was intentionally concealed. Cleopatra understood politics better than almost anyone of her age. She knew that her death would mark the end of an era. It is possible that her closest supporters secretly buried her in a carefully hidden location to prevent Roman soldiers from disturbing her grave. If that happened, they succeeded beyond anything they could have imagined. For more than 20 centuries, the queen's resting place has remained a secret. Unlike the spectacular tomb of Tutankhamun, Cleopatra's burial may never have contained mountains of gold or priceless treasures. By the time of her death, Egypt had endured years of war and economic hardship. The royal treasury was no longer what it had once been. But even if little treasure remained, the historical value of such a discovery would be beyond measure. Imagine opening a sealed chamber untouched since 30 BC. Inside could rest the sarcophagi of Cleopatra and Mark Antony, surrounded by royal symbols, inscriptions, ceremonial objects, and perhaps even documents that reveal the final days of the Ptolemaic kingdom. Such a discovery would transform our understanding of one of history's most famous women. It could answer questions historians have debated for generations. What were Cleopatra's final wishes? How was she truly buried? Did Octavian honor his promise to lay her beside Mark Antony? Or did political circumstances change everything after her death? These questions continue to challenge historians because the surviving ancient sources often contradict one another. Writers such as Plutarch, Suetonius, and Cassius Dio described Cleopatra's final days decades after the events themselves. While their accounts remain invaluable, they do not always agree on every detail. Separating fact from legend has become one of the greatest challenges for modern historians. Over the centuries, Cleopatra has become more than a historical figure. She has become a legend. Paintings, novels, operas, films, and television series have created countless versions of her story. Sometimes she appears as a brilliant ruler, sometimes as a master politician, and sometimes simply as a romantic heroine. The real Cleopatra was likely all of these, and much more. She ruled during one of the most dangerous periods in Egyptian history, negotiating with the most powerful men in Rome while trying to preserve the independence of her kingdom. Few leaders have faced greater odds. Perhaps that is why her story continues to fascinate millions of people around the world. And perhaps that is also why archaeologists refuse to give up searching. Every excavation brings new discoveries. Every buried temple, forgotten tunnel, and ancient inscription has the potential to reveal another piece of the puzzle. History has surprised us before. For centuries, many believed that Tutankhamun's tomb had been lost forever. Then, in 1922, Howard Carter uncovered one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of all time. Who can say that history will not repeat itself? Perhaps somewhere beneath the Egyptian desert, perhaps beneath the ruins of Taposiris Magna, or perhaps beneath the waters of ancient Alexandria. The final resting place of Cleopatra is still waiting to be found. If that day ever comes, it will not simply be another archaeological discovery. It will be the moment when one of history's greatest mysteries finally gives up its secret. Until then, Cleopatra's lost tomb remains one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries, a silent reminder that even after more than 2,000 years, ancient Egypt still guards secrets powerful enough to capture the imagination of the entire world.